Hello, I'm Karen, and this is Unexpected Adornments. I like to do subscription bead box unboxings, jewelry tutorials, hauls, and share completed pieces I've made. Today, I'm unboxing the October 2025 Bargain Bead Box. And once I unbox this collection, I'll get to work designing a tutorial to share with you later in this video. Let's take a look at the 21 items included this month. This subscription is $22.99 a month with free shipping in the US. The description says it has shadowy, dark, moody colors meshed with sparkling crystals and silver findings. And the retail value of this collection is estimated to be $90.29. First, we have a brass and golden sheen obsidian bat pendant. It's got quite a large and round cabochon. And here's the back. It's very reflective, so I apologize for the lights, but I'm hoping you can see some of that golden sheen in the black. Next, we have a 31 by 27 millimeter silver cat and moon pendant. Show you the back of that. The back is really beautiful with the star and sort of abstract shaped piercings. We have a strand of golden sheen obsidian round beads. These are 8 millimeter. I can see the gold a little bit better in these than I could in the bat pendant. They're really beautiful. I don't think I've ever used golden sheen obsidian before. Then we have a 7-inch strand of 4 by 3 millimeter faceted rondelles. And these are also the golden sheen obsidian. We have a 15-inch strand of 6 millimeter black agate. That one almost looks like an evil eye. Oh, there's two of them like that. I love agate. It's just one of those stones I never get tired of. And I always feel like the striped black agate works for any season. We have a 7-inch strand of 8 by 6 millimeter Malaysian jade rondelles. I guess this dye treatment is called October Nights. As you can see, it's got some reds, some purples, and deep blues. Very, very pretty. We have 6 pieces of 13 by 10 inch black onyx beryl beads. These definitely have some weight to them. We have 10 pieces of 10 millimeter agate striped Z beads. These would be lovely in earrings or bracelets. Really, really nice. I like these a lot. We have a 16-inch strand of 8 by 6 millimeter crystal rondelle beads. These are faceted, of course. And this mix is called Moon Shadow. Very pretty. I love the combination of the sort of metallics with the little bit of luster or AB treatment on the more opaque beads. This strand feels very flexible because you could use these individually. You could just pull out the blacks or the grays or use them as a mix. Really nice. We have a 9.5-inch strand of 6 millimeter crystal English cut faceted beads. And this color is called black vitriol. That vitriol treatment means the beads will have kind of like a clear side and then a more metallic side. It's a little hard to see, but I hope that comes through. Next is 20 pieces of crystal faceted chevron beryl beads. This is also in black vitriol. I love the way the chevrons are sort of etched in a matte finish. These are gorgeous. They pick up a lot of different tones. You can see sort of flashes of orange and purple, kind of yellow-green. Really pretty. Then we have 2 lampwork beads. I think the yellow flecks in these are meant to glow in the dark. I don't know if I can show that, but let me try. That's really cool. Very fun. We have a 25 by 13 millimeter boho bead. And I like the way it has the silver tone metal capping the ends. Just feel like that makes it look more finished and like a higher quality bead. And there's one more strand. It's a 7-inch strand of 4 millimeter cat's eye glass faceted round beads. And this color is called light peach. I love neutral beads because you can do so much with them. And then moving into some metal, we have 2 22 by 19-inch enameled cat and crescent moon charms. Let's take a look at the back. Nice pattern on the back. I like the little pattern on the moons. It just sort of takes it to the next level. And we also have 2 pieces of 23 by 19 enameled bat donut pendants. These also have that pattern on the back. We have 4 20 by 56 inch filigree bat connector charms. These have quite an intricate piercing design and lots of holes, which means you could use each one of these in a completely different way if you wanted to. We have 10 grams of 5.5 by 2 millimeter corrugated spacer beads. I like that these are a little bit thinner. Gives them a little bit more of a delicate feel. We have 10 grams of bead caps. These are 6 by 7 millimeter dotted bead caps. It's a nice size too. It'll fit with a lot of the beads in this collection. We have 2 toggle clasps. These are on the larger side. These are 21 by 34 millimeter. We have 1 meter of 3 by 2 millimeter stainless steel cable chain. And then finally, we have a 24 by 13 millimeter obsidian faceted teardrop pendant. I'll give you an idea of the thickness of it. Very pretty gemstone. Here's the entire collection. It's a really great assortment. Even though it's leaning toward the black and silver, there's a lot of variety in the different tones and shapes. And I like the addition of these sort of peachy and orangey neutrals. For this tutorial, I thought I'd make a necklace, and I'm going to make the focus of it be this faceted obsidian pendant from the bead box. I want to make a beaded frame for it, and I'm going to start with 2 colors of Miyuki 11.0 Delica beads. So I have Ceylon gray and opaque black. Then I'll also be using some 15.0 round seed beads in opaque black and light Ceylon gray. And for my thread, I'm using a preconditioned nylon beading thread. And I'm using a size 12 beading needle. So the first thing I want to do is unwind about 4 feet or so of beading thread. I put a stopper bead at the halfway point in my thread, and then I've threaded my needle on one end. So the other end, for right now, is just a long tail. So now I have a pile of my opaque black Delica beads and my Ceylon gray Delica beads. The first thing I want to do is load about 50 Delica beads onto my thread, and I want to make the frame be sort of striped, so I'm going to alternate the beads. Now I'm going to start with the dark. Start with 1 black, 1 gray, black, gray, black, gray. And then I'm going to keep going until I have 50. All right, so now I've got 50, and I'm just going to go ahead and slide these down to my stopper bead. Now I want to make a ring, because this will be the ring around my pendant. So I want to go back and sew through the very first bead past my stopper bead. So that'll be this first black Delica. And I'm going to cinch that up to make a circle. So that'll look something like that. And I want to just test the fit on my pendant. And I think that looks pretty good. I'm doing even count peyote, so I do want to make sure if I subtract or add, I need to either add 2 beads or subtract 2 beads. Ideally, if I could, I'd add 1 more bead just to give me a little breathing room, but I don't think that this will be able to take 2 more. So we'll go with the 50. Gemstone pendants do vary slightly in size, so just always make sure you check your fit. Now to start our peyote, I'm going to sort of cinch that up, not too tight, just leave it a little bit loose and keeping my tail out of the way. Because I'm making a striped pattern, it makes the peyote stitch pretty easy to keep track of. So I'm going to pick up a light Delica bead. So my thread is coming out of that dark bead. I'm going to skip the light bead and I'm going to thread through the next dark bead. And then pull my thread through. Cinch it up a little bit. Then once I get the bead on, I want to position these 2 light beads right next to each other. Kind of move it with my needle a little bit. So they're sitting side by side, and then pull my thread a little tighter so that it starts to look like that. So what we have so far is my thread went through this dark bead, skipped a light bead, and then through this dark bead. And now I'm just going to repeat that. So I'll load a light color bead on my thread. I'm going to slide it down, position it next to that light color bead, sew through the next dark color bead, and cinch it up like that. So what I want to do now is go all the way around the circle, just picking up a light colored Delica, skipping the next light colored Delica and sewing through the dark Delica, and then positioning them until I get this pattern all the way around. And one thing to be aware of as you're working around the ring is to try to keep your piece flat so that your ring stays aligned. So now I've worked all the way around, and I still have one more light color bead to add here. So I'm going to go ahead and pick up my bead, and then instead of just going through the black bead, I need to step up into the next row. So I'm going to go through my black bead, and then also go through this light bead that's on the outside. And that will step me up into my next row. So I'm going through those two. And now when I pull through, I've added that last light color bead, gone through the dark bead, and instead of my thread coming out the dark color, I'm coming out the light color now. So now I need to add a row of black beads all the way around. So I'll pick up a black bead, and then this time I'm going to skip the next black bead and go through the light bead. This is pretty easy because then you're just filling in that open spot, and it will look like that. To do it one more time, I'm going to pick up a black bead, skip the next black bead, go through, put your needle through the light bead, sew through, and now I have two of the black beads added. And I just want to do this all the way around. And then as you're working, try to keep your ring flat. So I just keep it laying across my two fingers and try to keep my thumb on it to support it in place. And then just turn it as I'm working. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this row. So now I've worked all the way around, and I just need to add my last black Delica bead. So what I want to do is again step up to go into the next row. So I'll skip this black Delica, go up through my light gray one like I have been, put my needle sort of at the diagonal, and go through that first black Delica. I'm going to go ahead and pull that through. Now I have the base of the frame for my pendant. So I'm going to switch to the 15-0 beads now. So I have some of my 15-0 round black seed beads and my 15-0 round light gray seed beads. And I'm going to follow the same pattern, but this time, instead of using the Delicas, I'm going to use the round seed beads. So I'll start by picking up a round gray seed bead, and I'll skip my next light Delica, go through the black Delica, and use my round seed beads. And I'm going to go all the way around doing this, and this will start to cinch my frame up a little bit. And because I want that curve to start, I'm going to keep my thread a little bit tighter. Not tight, but just sort of cinched up, if that makes sense. So once again with this row, I'm just taking a light gray round seed bead, and I'm going to skip the next light Delica bead because I want to keep my stripe pattern, and then go through the dark bead and just stitch that up. So I'm going to repeat this all the way around again until I get to that last bead in my row. So I've gone all the way around once with my light seed beads. And I'm ready to add my last one and step up into the next row. So pick up a gray seed bead, thread my needle through this last black Delica bead, and then angle it up through that first gray seed bead. Pull my thread through. Just cinch up a little bit. And now my thread is coming out of this light seed bead, and I'm ready to start my row of dark seed beads. This will be my last row on the front side of my frame. So I've picked up a black seed bead. I'm going to skip the black Delica bead, place my needle through the light seed bead, just sew through that. So now I've got another black seed bead loaded on my needle, and I'm going to place my needle through the next light color seed bead, skipping that Delica bead again. Oops, can't get around that. And adding the second row of the smaller seed beads will help to curve my frame to fit my pendant. So I'm going to go all the way around and complete this row of black seed beads. I finished my row of black seed beads, and I'm not going to add that last one right here, because what we'll do is when we get to the point of cinching this up, I'm actually going to skip that bead and put my needle through this second light colored seed bead, and then that will help cinch this up tight and make a point. Since now if my pendant didn't have that pointed end, I wouldn't do that. But in this case, because it does, I want to try to help that point hold its shape. And the other thing I did was I went back and tightened up all the thread. It was just a little bit too loose, so now you can see the frame is holding its shape a little better. And this will give you a preview of how this will look once we get the pendant inside. Now I'm not going to add any more beads to the front. This will be my last row on the front. So what I'm going to do is take my spacer bead out and thread my needle on my long tail, and we'll start working on the back. So the first thing I need to do on the back is step up to the next row. And my thread right now is coming out of this black Delica bead. But I want to step up to this first light color bead. So I'm going to just put my needle through that, and now I'm ready to start adding seed beads. So I'll start with black since that's the next stripe. I'm going to pick up a black seed bead, skip that black Delica bead, and put my needle through the light Delica bead. Just pull my thread through. And now I'm starting my row of black seed beads. So I'll go ahead and take that row all the way around. So I've gone all the way around with my black seed beads on the back of the frame, and now I just need to add one more to complete my row. So pick one up, and this time I'm going to go through that last light Delica and also through the first black seed bead so that I'm stepping up into the next row. And I'll just pull that tight, and now I've completed that black row of seed beads, and I'm ready to start adding my row of light color seed beads. So I'm going to sew through the next black seed bead. I've got a light seed bead loaded on my needle. So since this is the back of the frame, I'm going to put my pendant in this way, and I want to make sure that the point of it lines up with where I left off on the front with these two seed beads that I want to cinch together to make a nice tight point. So I can just sort of hold this. It's not tight enough yet to hold the pendant in place, but I suspect once I finish this next row of light seed beads, it might be enough to hold the pendant. So I'm going to try to hold that in place as I'm working. Just pick up my light seed beads, skip that Delica, go through the next dark seed bead, kind of keep working around, and then cinching that tight as I go to help close this up. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this row of light seed beads as I try to keep the pendant in place. So now I've gone all the way around the pendant with my light color seed beads. So we go ahead and pick up that last light seed bead and then thread my needle through the last black seed bead and the very first light color seed bead I added, and that will step me up into the next row. I'm going to cinch that nice and tight, and you can see now it's really starting to hold the pendant in place. So I do want to add one more row just to really secure this back. So I'm going to add another row of black seed beads. So I'm going to sew through the next light color seed bead and then pull through. I know it's a little hard to see because it's black on black at this point, but now I've got another black seed bead in between these two lights to start this row, and I'm going to go all the way around with that. And when I get to the top, I'm also going to skip a bead here so that I can cinch that tight. And something I want to pay attention to is, again, that this area that I have where I'm going to cinch these two tight is at the point. So that'll be about right there, which is about right where I want it. And I also want to make sure that my beads on the back don't come down so far that they block the hole in my pendant, because I do want to use the hole in my pendant as part of this design. So I'm going to go all the way around with the black seed beads for this last row. Now I've gone all the way around the back with my last row of the black seed beads, and I already reinforced it by going around the 2 rows of seed beads one more time, just to tighten it up. And then I wove my ends in. And then on the front, I tightened up those 2 beads at the tip here to help make my point. And this is the finished pendant. So now that I have the pendant done, I'd like to make a little black bail to attach to the wider end of it. So I cut about a 2-foot length of beading thread, and I've added my stopper bead about 6 inches from the end, and I'm just leaving a little bit of a longer tail so that I have some thread to be able to sew the ends of the bail together if I need it. Because I want to keep my bail relatively narrow, I'm just going to pick up 4 Delica beads on my needle. So I've got my 4 Delica beads. I'm going to push them down to the end. Like that. And then I just want to kind of hold on to the end there, pick up 1 more black Delica bead. I'm going to put my needle through the second to the last Delica bead that I just added and go ahead and pull that through. It's a little bit fiddly at this point to get started, but once you get started, it holds together pretty well. Now I want to make sure that those 2 beads are sitting side by side, because we're going to make just a little even count peyote bail. And then pick up another Delica bead on my needle. Then I want to skip the next Delica and go through that last one. And then pull that through. And now it looks like that. You can see we've sort of got the start of our first row. And I'll pick up another Delica bead. I try to hold the bail between my thumb and forefinger to keep it from moving around so much, but it's a little tricky. So I picked up another Delica bead, and now I'm going to put my needle through the first Delica bead that's sticking out. Thread that through, and then pick up another Delica bead. Go through that last Delica bead at the top, sew that through. Again, just trying to keep it pinched between my fingers lightly so that I can keep the shape. And then pull that tight. And now I've got the start of my bail. And I've added one more row. I just want to keep weaving these beads together until I have a long enough strip to use for a bail. So now I've added more rows to my bail. Ideally, I would have used a dark thread or a black thread, but I don't have any. I just have the white, and I did use the white on the pendants. If I had the black thread, I would have used it. I want to go ahead and attach that to the top of my pendant. So what I'll do is just line that up so it's in the middle and sew through the seed beads on the top there. So I'm going to take my needle through this white Delica bead. So I'm lining this up in about the center. And then I want to go through the black Delica bead on my bail, and then through that next white Delica bead. Let's cinch that up a little tighter, and then I'll start to attach that into place. So now I've got something like that. So I want to go through this black Delica bead. I'm going to flip it and go through the black Delica bead on my piece. And then I'm going to go through the white Delica bead again and up through the black Delica bead. I know it's a little hard to see. And I'm going to go up through that black Delica bead on the bail again. Then I'll go through that one more time just to get it securely attached. I'm not going to attach the front yet, but when we do, we'll just fold this over and sew it in place. Because this pendant is a little bit on the petite side, I wanted to add a component to make it more dramatic. And I was thinking that a tassel might be nice because we have the hole to hang something from. So I want to use one of the black onyx barrel beads from the bead box, and then hang some seed bead fringe from this, and then attach these. So it'll look something like that with the fringe coming down. And for the fringe, I'm going to use some 11-0 black seed beads. These are Toho. Let's get some of those out. Just to add a little bit of drama to the tassel, I wanted to sprinkle in a few Miyuki 11-0 galvanized silver Delica beads. And I wanted to use silver because I thought that would pull in sort of the silver metal components that'll be part of this necklace. I've also got a silver jump ring. I think this is about 7 millimeters. And then I've got about 40 inches of the same beading thread. I'll also need a little bit of glue, so I'm going to use some GS Hypo Cement. That's just to put a dot of glue on my knots. So to start, I'm going to tie a knot through my jump ring. And I want to leave enough of a tail to get a needle through so that I can thread the ends back through the bead and in through one of the tassels. So I'm going to go ahead and tie a double knot and try to keep it away from the opening on the jump ring. So I'll put the knot really anywhere else but that. I just don't want it to accidentally slide through there. Nylon's pretty slippery. That's why I like to add a dot of glue to it. And then I've got a needle on my on the long end of my thread, so I'm going to go ahead and thread that through my barrel bead so that my jump ring is sitting at the top like that. And I'm going to go ahead and string my tassels. I want my tassel to be about 30 seed beads long, and just to give it a little bit of a pattern, I'm going to add 9 black seed beads and then 1 of the silver Delica beads. And I'm adding it this way because I want a silver Delica bead to be on the bottom, partly because, again, I'm using a light color thread, and since I'll have to loop the thread around that last bead to make the tassel, I'll show you that in a second, thought it would be less noticeable to have it going around a silver bead versus going around a black bead. So go ahead and slide that up, and that'll give you an idea of how this will look. And then I'm going to add 9 more beads, and then 1 of the silver Delica beads. And I thought about making the tassel out of the 15-0 seed beads, but I just thought it would be too fine. And I wanted a little bit of a chunkier tassel, something more noticeable. Okay, so there's the first, I guess, sort of leg or arm of my tassel. What I want to do now is thread my needle back up through all of the beads and around the jump ring, but I'm going to skip this last silver bead, and that will become the anchor for my thread. So I'm just going to pull that back and carefully make sure I get through all the other seed beads. I don't want to miss one because that'll kind of pop out weirdly. Just make sure I don't tangle my thread. Go up through the next set. And then through my last Delica bead and up through the remaining seed beads. Now that I'm through all the seed beads, I want to go back up through my barrel bead. And I want this to drape, so I don't want to pull it too tight. You don't want it super stiff. I think I'm going to need to tighten it just a little bit so I can get my jump ring down next to the bead. There we go. It looks something like that. And that's my first leg of my tassel. So now I want to take my thread through my jump ring. So sew through my jump ring. And then back down through my barrel bead again. Making sure not to pull that too tight. And then I'll just repeat this process to make some additional tassel strands. I added 3 more legs to my tassel, and I think I'm going to stop here. This size just feels in proportion to the pendant. If I add a lot more to the tassel, I'm worried that it'll overwhelm the pendant. So next I need to get my threads on the same side of my jump ring. Right now they're on opposite sides, so I'm just going to pull that through. So they're on the same side. And then just to make this a little bit easier to work with, I'm going to go ahead and trim that. So next I just need to tie a knot. I don't want to pull it too tight because, again, I don't want to pull my tassels up. So tie a triple knot there. And I'm going to apply a dot of glue. You don't have to do this, but I just like my knots to be extra secure just in case. I'll thread my needle on one end, go back down through my barrel bead, and into a few seed beads if I can. So we'll pull that one out there. And thread my needle on the other end. This time I'll go down through one of the other tassel legs. Let's try for that one. Pull that through. And then I'll trim these ends. You just want to be careful not to trim your tassel. Now I have a pretty tassel component. So I'm going to leave these threads loose on my pendant because we'll need that to finish up our bail. But let's go ahead and attach our tassel. So I've got about a 6-inch piece of 20 gauge silver toned wire. And I'm going to use my bail making pliers to create a large loop. So let's see if I can get that on before I go any further. Okay. And then I can kind of push that together a little bit. What it really needs is almost like an oval jump ring. So I'll cut off this shorter end. And then do the same, making sure I've got a blunt end on this side. Cut off this end. And then I'll just use my looping pliers to curve those ends in a little bit so they meet. And then just kind of work hard in that a little bit. I don't want to hold it too tight because I don't want to mar my wire if possible. Oh, that looks pretty good, and it still has a little movement. And then we'll just open that up and attach my tassel. So the side with the knot I want to point toward the back. So just put it on that way. Realign the jump ring. And then our tassel is attached. I like this because it gives the pendant a lot of movement. I want to go ahead and make the necklace. So I'm going to string it on some 7-strand beadalon. This is bronze color, it's just what I have. I'll be using some 11-0 Toho glass seed beads, some of the 6mm black agate beads from the bead box, some of the faceted chevron beads from the bead box, the English cut faceted beads from the bead box, the corrugated rondelle spacer beads, and the dotted bead caps. I was initially planning to use one of the toggle clasps, but now that I see the size of the pendant, I think these are just too large for this piece, so I'll save them for something in the future. So I already did half the necklace, so what we'll be using to finish off the rest of it is a 2mm crimp tube, a silver toned wire guardian, a small jump ring, a larger jump ring, and a lobster clasp. So this is the pattern that I came up with for this. So I'm using the agate beads, the seed beads, the spacer beads, the English cut crystal, the bead caps, and then the chevron beads. And then just sort of repeating that. And I've already finished off the one end with my crimp tube and my wire guardian. So the first thing I want to do is go ahead and attach my pendant. I went ahead and stitched the bail shut on my pendant. And to go underneath the pendant, I'm just going to put 5 seed beads. So I'll go ahead and string those. Make sure that I've got my pendant facing toward the front. Thread that on. So it's going right over those seed beads. So I added my 5 seed beads and then slid my pendant over that, and that still allows it to have a lot of movement, which I like. I thought about shortening the bail, but I think it's okay. So let's continue the pattern. Now because I put those 5 seed beads there, normally I would have 4 of the agates, but I just added more in the center to accommodate the pendant there. So I need to add 2 more agate beads. So I'll add an agate 2 seed beads, another agate, and then a spacer bead, an English cut crystal, a bead cap facing up, one of the chevron beads, bead cap facing down, the English cut crystal, and then the spacer bead, and another agate. So pretty and sparkly. I love these chevron beads. They are just amazing the way they have the matte and the shine, and then the faceting on top of that, just gorgeous. So let me go ahead and slide that down. And then that's how the pendant will hang. Then I'll add 2 more seed beads, an agate, two seed beads, another agate, third set of seed beads, and an agate. Slide those down, and I'll repeat that 2 more times. Just adding the crystal, the chevron bead, the crystal, 4 agates with the seed beads in between, another round of the crystals and the chevrons, and then I have an extended length of just agate and seed beads to finish the necklace. So let me go ahead and string the rest of it, and then we'll add the clasp. Okay, so we have our necklace completely strung. Now we're ready to crimp the end. So I'm going to go ahead and add my 2mm crimp tube. And then my wire guardian. Scoot that around and go back through the wire guardian. And through the crimp tube, and then I like to go back through some of these beads. And these 11/0 seed beads are wide enough to allow me to go ahead and string right back through that. And we'll tighten that up a little bit. I want to make sure it's got some flexibility. Or maybe just pull it just a tiny bit tighter. I think that looks good. So I'm going to go ahead and crimp. All right, try to make sure those aren't crossed. Put my crimp tube in my second hole in my crimp tool. Crimp that, and then turn it 90 degrees. Crimp it the other way. Whoops. Let's see if I can hold it this way. There, crimp it that way. That looks good. Not going anywhere. Trim off that end. That looks good. It's still nice and fluid. Yeah, like it. All right, let's go ahead and attach our jump rings and our lobster clasp. So I like the lobster clasp to be on the right side because I'm right-handed. So I'm going to go ahead and thread my lobster clasp on. Thread the jump ring through the wire guardian. Close my jump ring. And then all that's left is to add the big jump ring to the other side. So I'm going to go ahead and open that. Slide it on over the wire guardian. Close that. I always like to just double check that they're closed nice and tight. Clasp it, and we're done. I really love the way this piece came out, so let me know what you think. I'm not quite done with this box yet. I have a few more pieces planned, so subscribe so you don't miss the next video with those. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time.